Welcome back to Miss Liz IBG. Right now, the Hong Kong community and of course many immigrant families across the UK are talking about one thing. On the 5th of March 2026, the Home Secretary Subarna Mahmood released the statement of changes in immigration routes. Since then, my phone hasn't stopped. Messages from people who are worried, people who are relieved, and of course, I also saw some people who were saying things like, really make me reflect. So today I want to talk about it. Also, I'm going to share an incident happened at my son's secondary school and how I stood up for him to his teacher. Let's talk about it today. So, after reading the full document, now the big question is, does this affect BNO holders applying for indefinite leave to remain after the 26th of March 2027? Honestly, the document does not say yes or no for the BNO route. So what does that exactly mean to you right now? If you're applying for indefinite leave to remain before the 26th of March 2027, I'm sure you're feeling calm and relieved right now. However, if your timeline goes beyond that date, I guess you're having a war inside your head. You know what? I can't give any guarantee or promise at the moment, but I will be watching this space closely with you. And if the B2 requirement does affect the Hong Kong community, I will be thinking about doing something to support. Possibly creating some content, especially around B2 English skills and exam tips to support the Hong Kong community. But of course, I can't 100% guarantee because I still need to make balance between like my work, my family, yeah. But this is something I'm considering. So make sure you can subscribe to this channel, give me a like to tell me that you really need this, which will encourage me to make more videos regarding to B2 English tips. Well, however, on the other hand, giving a helping hand for B2 preparation doesn't mean I agree with the UK government, you see. Of course, I believe that improving English really matters because if you want to build a life here, communicating well helps you. Not just with like paperwork, application, but relationship as well, like with your neighbors, your colleague, work, school, everyday life. Yet, here's where I have to speak honestly. When a government makes a promise to a community and then quietly shifts the terms, that sends a message, yeah? Not just to immigrants, but to everyone's watching in the world. Let me put it this way. If a parent constantly breaks promises to their children, what are they exactly teaching the kids? That promises don't matter. The rules only apply to the others. The same logic applies here. Integrity matters. And I know that most of you who are watching are already probably feeling the same. Well, another thing I really want to talk about is, well, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I really have observed something in the Hong Kong community that's kind of breaking my heart in a way. Because I can see some people, they're showing two completely different faces. What does that mean? They could be dismissive and cold, especially when they are facing other Hong Kongers. However, being very friendly and warm the moment when they're dealing with local people. Why is that? Well, of course, I'm not saying all of them. Apparently, some of them are. You see, you guys came here from the same city. You guys should understand each other's struggles in a way that nobody else truly can. So, I don't understand why not standing together. And then, this part is even worse. That really hurts. Some people who already got indefinite leave to remain, they said something like this. Tighter requirements, of course. People who come later should just work harder. They deserve that. Now, I want to say this very clearly and as kindly as possible. I try, okay? That attitude says nothing about the people arriving now or later. It says everything about the person who said such thing. You see, we all had our own difficult chapters when we first arrived in a new country. And don't forget, someone helped you. Even if it was just a stranger online who answered your question, remember that. So please, be that person for someone else. Share information, support each other, show up for your community. Okay? Actually, this brings me to another thing that I really want to share is about my son. Because for the first time since moving to the UK, I had to stand up for him. Not because he was naughty, but because he was punished for something he didn't do. You see, on this channel, I often share English tips, parenting insights, psychology and encouragement. In one of my recent videos, I also talked about passive-aggressive communication in the UK here. Well, you know what? That skill came in very useful in that situation. So, my son was in a drama class at school a few weeks ago. Some students were performing on the stage that time. During the performance, the kids started giggling. Now, as you can imagine, once a few people started laughing, it's easy to spread, right? A chain reaction. So my son admitted that he did giggle a little, and he turned around to see his friend. However, he didn't actually speak. The teacher believed that my son did it, so she immediately asked my son to stand outside of the classroom for 5 minutes without asking what had actually happened. After that, the teacher also told my son that he would have detention the next day. So my son came home and told me everything. Now, as a parent, the first thing I did was not defend my son, but I questioned him. Because before you stand up for your child, you must make sure you understand the full picture. So my son told me everything, that he insisted that he didn't actually speak. Then I decided to write an email to that teacher. I kept my tone polite, but I was very clear. In the email, I shared my background as an educator with many years of experiences, also working in finance in the UK now as an FCA regulated advisor. Not because I wanted to show off, it's not like that, but to communicate that I place the highest value on integrity and accountability, just like that. Also, I make very clear that I fully support the school discipline and acknowledge how difficult classroom management can be. Also telling the teacher that in a way it's very hard to pinpoint the exact source of noise when a group is unsettled in the classroom. All of those things was actually my way to save the teacher's face, giving her an exit. Then I got into the most important part, where I firmly stood my position. I told the teacher that because my son is adamant that he didn't speak at all, and I don't want my son to feel that being honest results in a penalty, therefore he won't be attending the detention the next day. I ended the email respectfully, saying I was happy to discuss the matter further if needed, leaving my contact number. The teacher hasn't replied. Now, I want you to remember this structure, especially you're living in the UK, okay? Because this somehow really works, whether or not you're dealing with teachers, work, many situations here. First, stay polite. Acknowledge, respect, showing you understand their position. Number 2, be firm. State your position clearly. Number 3, polite again at the end. Leave the door open. Keep the relationship intact. My tone in the email was not aggressive at all. It was calm, respectful, but firm. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in the UK is not argue loudly. It states your position clearly. and walk away with your dignity intact. Of course, when it comes to the statement of immigration changes, this might not be as effective as how I dealt with the school, but I believe being rational, firm, showing your integrity, it shows you are the one who did the right thing. Make sense? So, what do these two things have in common? Immigration rules, school detention, they don't seem completely the same. Yeah? But the response could be similar in a way, polite but firm. This is how we protect ourselves and our children in a new country. And you don't have to simply accept something just because someone in authority told you so. When we move to another country, we absolutely should respect the culture. We should adapt to the system. I strongly believe in that. But adapting does not mean losing your values. If something is unfair, you can still respond with dignity. Because as parents, we are the first protectors of our children. We are the ones who shape the sense of fairness. And sometimes, the most important lesson a child ever learns is not from a textbook. It's from watching how the parents handle a difficult situation. Yeah, I know that living abroad can feel lonely, especially when you're trying to navigate a system. Well, that's why I created this space, a space where we can share experiences, giving support, English tips, funny stuff, encouragement, of course. So, 2 questions for you today. First one, how do you feel about the immigration changes? Are you worried right now, relieved, or somewhat in between? You can share a comment. I read every single one. Second, have you faced something similar, like my kid, at your child's school? What did you do? Did you speak up? Did you stay silent? Now remember, I'm not here to judge you, because your story might be exactly what other parents need to hear right now. Okay? That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one.